Hi everybody, I'm Allison and welcome to my YouTube channel. We're going to get right into it. This is the first of my Christmas card series for 2018. I've already grabbed my Catherine Pooler Plaid stamp and I'm inking it up with some Catherine Pooler Twilight ink. It's a nice soft gray. So I'm inking it up rather liberally. I've die cut a stitched rectangle from some fog cardstock. And we're just giving it a good press. I just put the scrap piece of paper over top just so that I don't get my fingers all inky. And we're going to actually make two because I'm going to make two cards today. So I've inked it back up, placed my stitched rectangle back on the stamp, given it a good press to make sure that ink transfers over to the paper. And voila! We've got a second piece of plaid cardstock. I'm just going to use my Lawn Fawn towel to wipe it clean. And we're going to go on to the next step. I'm going to grab some oval dies. These happen to be stitched. It's not going to leave a stitched line on my card, but it just happens to be the first ovals I found. I'm taping my oval die into position just so it doesn't move when I run it through my Big Shot. And I'm going to do that off camera because it's such a big machine to bring into view. So I've done that once and I'm going to do it once again to my second card. By using some low-tack tape like this post-it tape, it just allows you to maintain the position of your dies but not stick to the paper. So there we have it. Two oval-shaped window card toppers. Next we're going to use this fun Catherine Pooler die set. And I've already cut out a couple of the trees out of white cardstock. I've got two pieces of white cardstock and I'm just going to use some tumbled glass distress oxide ink. This ink is wonderful to get nice smooth blends. I'm just using my Tim Holtz inking tool and I just love this thing. So what we're doing is we're making a sky, so it doesn't have to be perfect, just has to have the majority of that upper oval inked up and ready to go. And then we're going to add some snow to it, just going to make it into our winter scene for our Christmas card. So now that I've got them nice and blended, we're going to tuck them in behind, but we have to do a few more things before we can do that. We've got this gorgeous SugarPea Designs die, and it cuts out this really neat mountainous and cabin and trees. Then we'll bring in this My Favorite Things Rolling Hills die set, and we're going to create another hill which will actually go in the foreground. So we're going to take those die cuts and set them aside, and we're going to pull out this Simon Says Stamp stencil, and it's awesome for doing snowflakes in the background. So I've got some iridescent embossing paste, and we're just going to lightly scrape that across the stencil, and it's just dipping itself into all those little circular grooves, and it's going to leave us a really cool shiny snow. I'm just scraping the top. Any of the extra can go right back in the jar, and voila, there's our shiny snowflakes. And I'm going to do a second one. Here we go. Same procedure. I just use some post-it tape just to keep everything flat on my desk. So once again, I'm just scraping it across. You don't actually need a lot of paste to get this effect. Majority of it is going to end up going back in the jar. And there we go. Second piece done, and I'm going to take that to the sink and give it a nice light scrub, and on with the next part. We're going to glue that foreground hill in first, so I'm just adding some adhesive to the back of that oval, and I'm just going to do it by eye, and I'm going to trim off any excess. Perfect. Next step is we are going to use those backgrounds, but I've got to put a couple of those trees in the foreground before it goes in. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm just going to use some Scotch tape actually. It's quick, easy, it doesn't leak anywhere, and it's fast. So I'm just taping those to the back, trimming off anything that hangs off the edge. I want kind of the larger of the two trees to be more so in the center of the card because our critters are going to be peeking out from behind it. So now we've got our trees all in our oval scape. We need to decorate that background. So I'm going to go in with my Copic markers and I'm going to do a really quick coloring of that background. So I'm going to start off with a C1 and color in those mountainscapes first. I'm going to take a C0 and do color in that one mountain that appears to be in the back. It's going to show up a little bit later. Going to add a little bit of interest with a little bit more C1. And I'm going to call that done. Super easy. Next, we're going to bring in a YG95. It's a nice kind of mossy green. I like to use it for evergreens. And I'm just going to color in all of those branches on the evergreens. I'm leaving the ends of those branches white as if to appear like they have snow on them. So I'm not completely coloring them in, but you could. So I continue to do tree number 3, leaving some white space. I'm going to bring in a E33, which is kind of a light brown, and we're going to color in that cabin. I'm going to put my base color in first. I'm going to color in all my logs. Yep. Super easy. The die cut actually even has some embossed lines in it that make it look like logs. It's so super cute. So I'm going to bring in an E25. It's a little bit darker brown, and I'm just going to highlight those grooves or those embossed lines where it appears like there's logs. I'm keeping my coloring very simple. It's going to be in the background anyway. It's not in the foreground, and so it doesn't need to be very detailed. Just adding a touch of gray to the top of the cabin just to make it look like there's some darker spots. Eventually I'm going to put some sparkle and some snow on there. Let's glue on our mountain caps there of snow. Just using some Monotombo glue. It's just the one that I kind of grabbed first. Super easy. And they're already stuck. And I have a little teeny door and it's escaping me. And I'm just using that dark Copic marker, and we're going to actually just add it in from the back. Next, we're going to pull in the Frosty Friends stamp set from Hello Bluebird. We're going to use those cute little critters at the bottom there, the reindeer and the polar bear. And I've stamped them already with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is Copic friendly. And we're going to color all of our images today with Copic markers. I've begun the deer with E33 as a base color. And I'm going to do his ears, his head, his front legs, and his back legs. Then we're going to pull in a slightly darker brown, an E35, and we're going to kind of add a little bit of shadow to all of those other brown parts. I'm going to use the E33 to blend it, just to make sure that there's no funny looking lines. Next, I'll bring in the YG95. We're going to do his collar, and now E11 to do his inner ears, his antlers, and his tummy. We're going to add a little bit of pink with R20. We'll bring in W7 to do his hooves. And I'm going to use my fine Jelly Roll pen, my white one, to add a little bit of shine to the hooves and to his nose. We're going to color in his bell as well with Y28 and Y13. On to the polar bear. We're going to start off with the stocking with R27. Then back to our YG95. Trying to keep my colors consistent. Add that to his scarf. We're going to kind of add his shadows with E30. It's a really light brown. And all I'm going to do is just the edges where he might have shadow. I'm going to come in with my cool gray, my C0, and add a little bit of shading to the stocking. Add some R20 to his ears. We're going to use the blender pen, which is 0. Add a little bit to his cheeks and then drop in some R20. I'm going to add a little bit more blender pen over top, and this allows for a more subtle cheek color. I'm also going to take that blender pen and soften all of those light brown shadow lines, and this way it's not so stark. They turned it really cute. Next, I'm going to fussy cut out all of my images, and then I take this Copic marker, I'm going to indicate above, and I'm going to do all of the cut edges. Because the paper has a white core, quite often it shows on your cards, so if you add a darker edge to it, they're not as noticeable. I do this pretty much to all of my fussy cut images. Alright, now that we've got everything fussy cut, we can start layering up that window. So I want my animals to be peeking out from behind that large tree. So I'm going to bring in my Monotombo glue and just put a little bit down just along the tree and along that snow line, and we're going to kind of position it over top the bear so we see all those pertinent things popping out behind that tree. We're going to do the same for our reindeer. Isn't he cute? And just add him as well to the back, just making sure that his ears have a little bit of adhesive behind them too, just to keep him in line there. Next, I'm going to take my large roll of 3M Scotch foam tape, and we're going to cut it into pieces that I can use to pop up all of that card front and put the secondary layer of landscape on it. I've just peeled off the backing. It allows the foam to bend. So if you need to go around a curve, it's perfect. Just take off that back of the tape. I'm just trying to see where everything's going to fit. I should have put all of my foam tape underneath first. It would have made things way easier. So I end up peeling it back a little bit, adding foam tape to the back of my critters, to the back of my trees, and to the full back of that card all the way around the window. This allows me to keep an even thickness of card base once I actually put it on the sky and the card. So I actually made more work for myself. But anyway, so I'm just trimming off anything that kind of sticks off the back because we don't need it. I'm cutting my pieces down to fit wherever they need. This huge roll of foam tape is awesome. It makes this job so much easier because you can actually customize any size, any length, any width of foam tape that you need. It's great. So I'm going to continue to add all my foam tape, preparing it to go on top of that gorgeous snowy sky. Just trimming it up. Make sure that my pieces aren't too long and hanging over the edges. Filling in the gaps. I like to try and keep as much foam tape in the corners as possible. It just allows for that cardstock piece not to indent either in the mail or by the recipient's hands. So having a lot of foam tape is kind of an asset when you're doing a card that has a window like this. So we're almost done. We're almost ready to peel off all the backing. Just a couple more pieces here, and we're going to peel them all off and get them ready for the sky. So with peeling off all of that foam tape backer, I'm going to place it over top of our pretty little blue sky, press it into place. If there's anything hanging out from below, I just use my scissors to trim it off. Give it a good press so it's in position, and we've got our card front ready to go on our A2 sized front folding card base. I'm just going to use my ATG gun to add adhesive to that back of the sky piece, and voila, we have got one little card made. So I'm going to do a simple sentiment, "Oh dear, Christmas is here," from a My Favorite Things stamp set, and we're going to use some sticky Versamark ink, inking up our stamp using a little bit of our anti-static powder tool on top of that piece of red cardstock. I've stamped it on there. We're going to use a detailed white embossing powder. I'm going to sprinkle that on. I'm going to tap off the excess. If you find that you have strays, which I did, I just use both my finger and then I use the really fine detailed tip of my tweezers to remove any of those stray particles. This is a good tool because it's very, very fine at the end. I took it to my heat tool, and there we go. We have a white sentiment. I just trimmed off the ends with my scissors, and I'm going to use some ATG tape, and we're going to adhere that to the front right hand side of my card. There we go. And this happens to be the second card that I made with the reindeer on the left and the polar bear in the middle. I'm just taking some Stardust stickles and adding some snowy shine to the rooftop and the hills and the mountaintop. And one last detail, I'm going to take some glossy accents and I'm going to add a tiny bit to the eyeballs and the noses and the jingle bell on our reindeer's neck, and that's going to finish off our card. Oh, and I also put some glossy accents into the little window pane on that cabin in the background, and it just makes it shiny just like a window would be. So, and that's all the final touches to our cute little deer cards. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so happy that you could come to my YouTube channel. Appreciate all your comments and thumbs up. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming.